Hey everyone, welcome to our podcast. This is my story. If you're one of our loyal listeners, welcome back. It's great to have you here again. And if you're new to our podcast, welcome here also. And be sure you check out our welcome information episodes that we have on our channel, episodes 1 and 2. And those are going to get you properly introduced to what reactive attachment disorder is and tell you about the therapeutic parenting techniques that we talk about here on our podcast. So either way, if you've been here before or you're brand new to our show, it's great to have you join us today. This podcast is all about interviews with parents and kids and professionals who share their stories with us, whether their parenting journey or their journey of healing or how they help our kids and families through therapy and other forms of healing work that we do. And they tell us anything from the craziest things that's happened to them to their really great moments of healing. Today is Tuesday, April 28th. You're listening to our 9th episode. And today we have on Eric and Julie from Ohio. And they're going to share with us their journey through foster care and adoption and finding out that their kids needed a different type of parenting and how they realized that something was different, that trauma had affected their kids, and they needed a new type of parenting to help them heal from that. So I'm really excited to have them here today. Their story is great. This is the first part, so make sure you check back next week to get their second part. And I'm excited. Let's get into it. All right. Hello, Eric and Julie, both of you. Welcome to our podcast. Thank you for doing this interview. It's really great to see both of you. For our listeners, do you want to introduce yourselves and tell us who you are and where you live and all that good stuff?
I'm Eric, and I live in Ohio with my wife, Julie, and my daughter, Bethany.
I'm Julie. Eric and I have been blessed with two kids, 20 and 19 and a half. They're 7 months apart. We did foster to adopt. We had Bethany. We were able to pick her up from the hospital. Her birth mom decided to do an adoptive plan a couple months before she was born. We got to name her and everything. Our son Caleb, he was with his birth mom. She was a teenager. He came to us at 4.5 months old. We were his first placement without her. He was with us for 5 months. It was considered foster care. And then he went back to another home with his birth mom for the 5 months and came back home to us at 13 months old.
Okay, wow. So tell us your story. What has your journey been like fostering and adopting and then finding out your kids needed a different type of parenting besides kind of the normal or typical parenting? And what has that looked like for you? What has your journey been?
We didn't have children, biological children, and it just felt like we have a home and we want to have children. So let's look into this, the foster care, the foster to adopt. So we signed up here in the county and took the classes, and very informative. I remember our teacher, so to speak, instructor for one of our classes said, because we told her, we wanted to adopt. And she said, if you're looking for a healthy white male, child, that's probably not going to happen. And we were like, well, okay. We still wanted to pursue this foster to adopt. And I remember Caleb, well, his name was Damien then, and they brought the issue up of Caleb and Crystal, his mom, and they were like, well, can you have both of them in your home? And I was not real comfortable with that. I didn't, because she was a teenager and, with a child, and I didn't feel real good to that. Julie kind of deferred to me on that.
We counseled with Pastor Jim.
Yeah, with our pastor. And so we told him no, we couldn't do it. And so we ended up getting Caleb.
And they did say that having the baby, or saying no to having her also wasn't a deterrent for having him. But like I said, we thought about it, prayed about it, counseled, and decided that no, we weren't ready to have a teen mom also. And then he was placed with us on Good Friday. What a weekend.
I was very nervous about having getting a small child, a little boy in our home. I remember that. I remember I was really anxious and nervous. And
he had his first visit with his birth mom that night. We had to take him over there to the group home that she was living in. And I remember thinking, I love this little guy already. Like, I don't know that, I remember thinking the wrong thing after our classes, but I hope that they don't try to take this little guy from us. Caleb was with us for 2 months, and then we got a call from the county about a birth mom went in and wanted to do an adoptive plan. And a committee met there at Children's Services, and they picked us to be her forever family. I don't think at the time I didn't realize the significance of what that meant. And then a month later, our precious girl was born. Her birth mom had a couple suggestions for names, and we did use one of her suggestions for the middle name. So we had 2 kids, 7 months apart. Caleb came back home to us, like we said, at 13 months old. And it was shortly after that I've been around kids my whole life, Karen, and we realized something was a little different about Caleb. Very smart, but also not even just the typical mischievous or the typical toddler. He bit a little girl in the church nursery for no reason, drew blood. The dad asked to talk to us after and said, is he up on his shots? And was really concerned. And at that moment, it was kind of looking back like, ruh-roh. He would, we had a child lock on the refrigerator, and he figured it out within 24 hours. He unlocked it, got the gallon of milk out, set it down, closed the refrigerator, and put the lock back on. Just extremely smart. And then the tantrums weren't typical. I'm not getting my way. They were rages. So I've been around kids my whole life, like I said, and I always knew something was just a little different about our son. But we've always told the kids, like, God looked all over the world for kids for us, and he picked you guys to be our kids. And he looked all over the world for parents for you guys, and he picked us. And Bethany's question when she was younger, probably around 10 or 11, was, even in China? Yep, God looked even in China.
Yeah, that's great. And then how did you get started on using therapeutic parenting, or when did that journey start?
Family, a guy that Eric was deployed with, they were also doing foster care. And so our families got to be very close while our husbands were deployed. So when I would help her out with her kids, she said I needed to go in and talk to the therapist, and also watch videos so I would know kind of what to do. And they were Nancy Thomas videos. So thus began our introduction to the wonderful Miss Nancy Thomas.
And so how did you realize at that point that it was what you needed in your home, or did that come later?
Not too much later. We started seeing the same therapist, wonderful lady. We saw Nancy at a seminar, and then attended a camp, and then it just continued from there.
So after you got started, how did it affect your life, or what was that part like, trying to get this through and the ups and downs of kind of the daily living with therapeutic parenting?
It was rough. Of course, no one except other parents, other families going through it understands, we were always the ones, whenever at church or our homeschool co-op, whenever there'd be a situation, I would always stand up because I knew they were coming to talk to me. Our church family, though, was very helpful and understanding, and did their very best to come alongside us.
And then I always like to ask parents, what's the craziest thing that happened? Because our kids do such crazy behaviors. And both of you had written really great ones here. So do you want to share those with our listeners?
I would say mine was, Caleb was in his room. He was yelling for me. I opened the door, and he handed me a styrofoam bowl of his poop. At that time, he knew that I had a very, very weak stomach. I was so grossed out. But unfortunately, I let that show. So he was like, aha, I know how to get mom. So there was a lot of times that there would be more of that, other things at home.
Yeah, if he was confined in his room, and instead of saying, hey, mom or dad, I need to use the bathroom, he would just use the register in his room, which required us to, of course, get that cleaned. And his rages would typically cause him to knock holes in the wall of his room. And I remember once, I think he did some restitution, and we bought some stuff. And this was, I don't know, several weeks later, and we both went in the room, and I started patching the walls, and he was there helping me. And it wasn't like he was mad because he was having to repair it. It was almost like a bonding time because we were working on the walls on his bedroom. So it was kind of, I don't know, I just the way he would act towards us, as he was getting older. And in my head, I'm like, I would never have done this, said this, or did this to my parents. I couldn't, it was just so hard for me to like wrap my head around to see, what's he thinking? What's causing him to act like this, to be so defiant and
destructive and the threat.
Yeah. And when we talk about destructive, in one of the moments or a time when I'm guessing he was 6 or 7, and I thought I was at home, and Julie says, no, you're at work. I called and told you about this. So I can almost see it happening. When she told me about it, I can picture it. I can see him doing this. He got mad, really agitated, and went outside. And at the time we had a pool, and it was what type of?
A splash pool.
It was a splash pool. So it was a soft side pool all the way around. But, it was very, very sturdy. You can leave it up year round. And he went out and took a rock or the cement block and rubbed it against the side of the pool and knocked a hole in it, right towards the bottom. And Julie says he came in the house and said, hey, Mom, there's water coming out of the pool. And go ahead.
I looked out and I don't see anything. No, Mom, look, there's water, and water was gushing out of the pool. It was in like February. We had to have this guy come in to patch it. He had a wetsuit on, had to get in the pool. Just totally unbelievable.
And he didn't get in the pool that year. It was kind of like, okay, that was the consequence. You're not going to be able to swim in the pool when everybody else does. You can sit here in the shade and watch while we get in the pool. So yeah, that's what I can remember, and mostly I think is the one that really shake my head in disbelief.
Yeah, I think those are stories a lot of parents can relate to, just the crazy things. You can see them happen, and it's hard to believe yourself and hard to explain to anybody else what your kid just did. All right, that is the end of this first episode. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you in the next one. All right, that is the end of today's episode. That was the first part of our interview with Eric and Julie, so make sure you join us again next week so you can hear the second part. where we did a Q&A session with them and got really great answers from them about what their biggest challenge was on their therapeutic parenting journey, how they work together as a couple to parent kids who often triangulate and manipulate, and they've shared what they do for self-care with us. So we're really excited for that. So make sure you come back next week for episode number 10. All right, thank you for joining us here today on this episode. Check out the description for more information on our podcast and about the RADish Ranch. Be sure you're subscribed to our channel and you've turned on the notifications so you can get our episodes straight to your inbox every Tuesday morning. And also check us out on our social media platforms. So we have a Facebook page as well as an Instagram account, and we post on there pretty much every day. Encouragement for parents, tips for parenting, fun ideas or activities you can do with your kids. So there's lots of great information, whether you're a parent or a respite provider or a therapist or an interested family member who wants to learn how you can help out a family. The songs on our podcast are The Way Things Go and Come Down, both written and recorded by French Press, and we've used them with their permission on here. This Is My Story is brought to you by the RADish Ranch. I'm your host, Karen Poitras, and I will see you next week. Stay awesome.